Hey guys, this is Nick Newman with RPG Mastery. I'm here making a video about Magic the Gathering. I play a lot of Commander, a lot of EDH with my friends, when I'm not playing role-playing games, of course. And if you think about it, Magic is kind of a role-playing game anyways. I mean, everybody there at the table is a planeswalker, and they're playing spells out of their library, which is like a collection of their the things that they've seen on other planes, and they're casting these things and summoning them in to kill one another. So today's video particularly is about my response to the banning of Leovold Emissary of Trest. Now I'm going to put that picture up here. Leovold was an amazing card in EDH, and I knew this. I was not to brag or anything, but I knew this when I saw the guy. I was like, I'm going to make this happen. And there for a while, he was my favorite Magic the Gathering card, period. And so him getting banned was really sad for me, but having played him so much, oh yeah, I understand he needed to be banned. And whoever's watching that out there, I can understand if you were the kind of person that played Leovold in a different style. But if you really wanted to, I mean, Leovold had the ability to like turn 3 hand lockout. Nobody's drawing anything anymore. Let's everybody watch the Leovold player play. Now, I tried that at first, and I got a lot of heat at the table when I did that, so I stopped doing that, and I went to more of a hug style Leovold deck, where actually I built a deck to where you didn't even have to play Leovold at all. You just played the hug, everybody would leave you alone, and when you got to the one-on-one, you dropped Leovold, locked their hand out, and then just beat them to death, and that was really great, and not a lot of people got mad about it. But now that he's gone, a lot of people out there need a deck replacement or a general replacement for Leovold, and I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I didn't want to break down the deck that I had spent money on or get rid of it, especially when I had designed it just to be played by itself. So I had to find a general that would work in the Sultai colors. It's black, blue, and green. And I decided to use Tasigur, the Golden Fang. I have him right here. He's pretty amazing. I'm about to put an actual picture up here. This is a 6-drop black with Delve, so you can exile cards from your graveyard to pay for him. Every one you exiled is 1 mana towards his cost. And I think you can use that for, yeah, I'm sure you can use that to pay the extra Commander General costs that occurs when he dies over and over again, which is awesome because you can play later in the game. You can just play him for like 1. But most importantly, he's a 4/5, which is great because he can block. I'm not going to beat face with this deck. The deck I built here is made to just set down, interact with itself, and then basically have everybody draw cards and die. And it's very close to Nekasar, and I'll put a picture of Nekasar up here. But instead, the card in the deck does the damage instead of Nekasar. And so he has this ability, or Tasigur has this ability, 2 and a blue or green, or 2 blue or 2 green. And it says, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, then return a non-land card of an opponent's choice from your graveyard to your hand. Now, at first I thought that was crap, especially compared to playing Leovold, but if you're going the hug route, this is amazing because you can pick somebody in the game that you've been helping, or if somebody else in the game rises to power and you all have to try and stop him, you can choose an opponent and say, hey man, I know I've got Crow's and Grip in my graveyard. I know I got a Beast Within my graveyard. If I do this and I mill myself, can I target you? You give me that and I'll take care of that guy. And it works out phenomenally. And if that's not even happening, you can just mill yourself knowing that the deck is always going to have good cards in it because they can't give you a land. And that's what's important. Then return a non-land card of an opponent's choice from your graveyard to your hand. So they're going to give you something valuable. Now, if they know the deck, they know what not to give you. If they don't know the deck, it's great because they'll give you something important that you're going to win with. So Tasigur is pretty amazing. I'm going to go on to the actual deck tech now, and I'll see you on my table. Thanks. This is my deck tech of Tasigur, the Golden Fang. This is a replacement for Leovold Emissary of Trest. And it's actually a good one, contrary to popular belief. This is a 6 drop general, and he's actually, even though he is black, he's actually blue and green as well, because his activated abilities count towards his color identity. So he is a black, blue, green general. This guy is nothing but utility, and it's actually kind of a hug utility, because you choose somebody on the who's been playing. You choose somebody, and you're like, hey, give me this card and I'll be nice to you. Or give me this card and I'll get rid of this threat that the opponent has. Or you can just choose somebody and just be like, it doesn't matter what you give me because my whole deck's good. But there you go. He is card advantage. He gives your opponent an option, which not everybody likes. But sometimes it can be very, very beneficial to everyone in the group. Okay, so that's Tasigur. I'm going to start with the land base here. We have got, and sorry about this, you may not be able to see very well, but this is my camera setup for now. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 swamps in the deck. I'm going to start off with the lands. 4 swamps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 forests, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 islands. Now, there's a reason I'm running so many basic lands in this, and that's strictly because I am running a Boundless Realms for the late game ramp, just to kind of get myself out of control. So I decided to put a lot of just basic lands in the deck to help us get there late game. Other than that, I got an Evolving Wilds. This is my Jurassic Park altered art one that I actually hand painted. It's kind of crude, but I absolutely love it. Evolving Wilds, this is kind of the any color suite here. So I got Evolving Wilds, of course, Terramorphic Expanse. Now, the game, or this deck, I wanted it to be very fast. I wanted no lands to enter tapped if I didn't have to have them. Those are the only 2 lands in the deck that enter tapped, because you just want to keep going, especially if you're playing. This deck style is to play by yourself, essentially, and then have your card effects kill everybody at once. That's the goal. So we got an Unknown Chores, which is good. Converts your mana to whatever color you need. A command tower. You gotta have a command tower. If you're playing EDH, other than a monocolor general, you gotta have the command tower. Now we're on to the dual lands here. Yavim's Coast, which you do damage to yourself to gain blue or green mana. We've got Hinterland Harbor. Enters if you have a forest or an island already on the battlefield, untapped. Breeding Pool. Shock this in and do what you need to do. Sometimes the turn one play, just enter tap, no big deal. Lana War Wastes. This is the same. This is a pain land as well for black and green. Woodland Cemetery. Overgrown Tomb. Shock land. Underground River. This is a pain land for black and blue. I enjoy taking life to get my mana right. I'll pay any life to get the right cards I need casted out. Black and blue for Drowned Catacomb. This is the only copy of a Shockland I have in the deck. I don't have the other ones. If I did, I would get them out just to thin out the deck. Now, it's completely non-necessary. A lot of people will put them in to help round out or to help thin their lands in their deck. I just put it in there because it's cool and it enters untapped, and I can get any island or swamp. Watery Grave, Shockland. Now, Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth. Now, this is amazing because I have a lot of cards in here that actually cost 2 black. That's my refrigerator. This card's amazing because I have a lot of cards in here that actually cost 2 black or more. So this is going to give me all the swamps I need. And then I have a Reliquary Tower. Now, we're on to the utility lands, of course. Reliquary Tower, it's a commander staple. It's amazing. Especially in this deck. You have to have a Reliquary in this deck. Just because you're drawing so many cards, you just don't want to get rid of them. You want your opponents to get rid of them, but you don't want to get rid of them. So the deck also has a side theme of discarding, because we know Windfall and stuff that the original Leovold would utilize makes you discard your hand. So I kind of went that route with the deck as well. And this Gaia Reach Sanitarium makes your opponents discard, or everybody draw a card and then discard a card. So this land can make your opponents trigger each of your abilities, the ability that makes everybody lose a life when you draw, and the ability that makes everybody lose life or give you something cool when they discard. And then we're going to end with Temple of... Oh, we're not ending. Well, next up we got Temple of the False God. So good in EDH. Late game, oftentimes I will search for that card. And then finally, this isn't so much of a land, but it becomes a land when you play Urborg. This Maze of Ith, this is just to protect me from big threats that are attacking me. As I said, this deck is just made to basically play, or have me play, help everybody out, but mostly just do my own thing, as everybody does their own thing. Alright, we're moving on to Ramp. We have a Soul Ring, obviously. Burgeoning, which... it's just an amazing card. Sometimes it can backfire if you don't have the lands in your hand, but as you're drawing all these lands, it's good to just get rid of them when everybody else takes a turn. So Burgeoning for Ramp. Thought Vessel, it's a good mana rock. Doesn't give me a color, but that maximum hand size is super important again. Everflowing Chalice, I like this because the minimum you can hit it, or you can play it for 0, of course. I don't know why you want to do that. But the minimum of 2 to give you 1 counter on it, and you can tap and add 1 mana to your mana pool for each charge counter on Everflowing Chalice. Late game, this thing's amazing, because you can, if you got nothing else to do, you can just put all your mana into the Everflowing Chalice and then have even more mana later on. But early game, you can play it for 2 and have a rock that gives you 1 mana. So pretty cool late game and early game. Coiling Oracle. This card is amazing. I don't know, a lot of people, I was asked about why I play this card. It is card advantage just built in. When Coiling Oracle enters the battlefield, you reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put that card into your hand. Early game, best case scenario, this is a mana ramp. And it just says the land card. It can be anything, so it just hits the battlefield tapped, it ramps you up. Late game, later on, if that trigger does not hit, you're going to draw a card, which is amazing. So, moving on, Chromatic Lantern. This is another one that's just going to help you. Later game, you play Chromatic Lantern, you actually just kind of, as long as you're not scared of it getting blown up, you can just tap lands, make any color you want, and not have to worry. On top of that, it's a rock, and it just speeds up the game a lot. Solemn Simulacrum, amazing. All these cards that I have for Ramp in this section that are creatures, they have Enter the Battlefield abilities that go off. That's because I'm running a Deadeye Navigator and I'm running Panharmonicon. So later game, when I hit these things, their triggers are gonna go off twice, and I'll show you that card when I get to it. Boundless Realms. Now this is my late game Ramp. This is when I get crazy. If this thing goes off, there we go. We've thinned out our deck for one, and then second of all, we have ramped like crazy. And if you don't know what this does, sorcery, it's heavy cost for 7. Search your library for up to X basic land cards, where X is the number of lands you control, and put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Now this is why I have so many basic lands in the deck, because I want to hit Boundless Realms. I don't want a lot of lands off of it. And I have some other things that gain me life, like Courser of Kruvix. And that when that enters the battlefield, I gain life for every land that enters. So this works very well with Courser. Kami of the Crescent Moon. I guess right now we're on to the card draw element of the deck. Now this is a friendship card draw, and later game I turn that into not friendship, but straight up pain for everybody that draws. But everybody's happy to see him early game. Later game he's quite a problem. And what's great is he's a 1/3, so he can block quite a bit of things early game for just that 3 toughness. But yeah, at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. Next, I have a Howling Mine. Now, that does pretty much the same thing, but yeah, it does the same thing, it's just not a critter. So 2 for Howling Mine. Early game ramp. Baleful Strix is next, and again, I said every creature that I have in here is hopefully has an enter the battlefield effect, because I'm trying to get Panharmonicon to trigger and get me double what I got. So when this guy enters the battlefield, I draw a card. So just card advantage off him, and he's a 1/1 flying Death Touch blocker, which is amazing. Rites of Flourishing. Now this is card draw and ramp. I love Rites of Flourishing, and you can use that on turn 3, drop your Rites of Flourishing, and you may not get the draw, but you can play an additional land on that same turn. So it is ramp as well. So Temple Bell. Temple Bell, tap, each player draws a card. Later game, you're going to use this trigger yourself. You're going to use this to abuse maybe your Courser of Crufix cards on top of your land, or on top of your library, or you're going to use it to trigger the effects that you want to happen at the exact time you want to happen because you drew a card. Rhystic Study, this card is so good. In this game, you're playing, like, you have your battlefield, you're trying to protect it for yourself, keep everybody to leave you alone, and just keep drawing cards. Rhystic Study is so stupid, and usually people don't want to pay that additional mana. This is just so much board state advantage. You're either going to make your opponents slow down, which late game they probably are going to slow down and pay that 1 extra. Otherwise, you're just going to get cards, and you're going to get a lot. So Rhystic Study is amazing. Jace Beleren, this is another friendship card draw thing. I usually only use the +2 ability. Each player draws a card. And at -2, I can make target player draw a card. If I want to make deals with somebody, I can be like, hey, I'll just give you a card if you leave me alone. And it works very well. At -10 ability, hardly ever goes on. And of course, Consecrated Sphinx. He's so expensive, but he's expensive for a reason, because you can beat people with him, 4/6 flying, but you're just going to get so many cards. And I'm making everybody draw additional cards on top of that, so that's going to trigger as well. I'm just going to draw cards. And what's great is it says whenever an opponent draws a card, you may draw a card. So you can actually stop yourself from milling yourself out, but that's how many cards you're going to get with Sphinx out. Just so many cards. Moving on, more on the card draw, we got Prosperity. Now this is a late game killer. This is early game, this can fix your hand a little bit. If you invest them in it, it's going to help everybody else out early game too. But late game, it might as well say each player draws X cards and loses X life, or 2 life, or 1 life. That's what this deck is about. Prosperity is amazing. You can also have people overload their hands so they have to discard. I don't like to do that, but it's a possibility. That's the card draw, and we're moving on to our protection. Because as I said, we don't like to interact with people too much. All we're going to do is try and set up our situation where every time somebody draws, they die. Propaganda. So Propaganda is going to make everybody that attacks you have to pay 2 extra for every creature attacking you. This is great against token decks and stuff that has a lot of guys that, or sapperlings that come at you and try to win that way. Next, we got a War Tax. War Tax is an older card, and before me, that's for sure. It looks like it's from Arcadian Masks. X and a blue. Creatures can attack this turn unless their controller pays X for each attacking creature. This thing's amazing. It's amazing because you can not only save yourself, but you might be able to save some of your opponents and have them work to your advantage. So you can be making deals like, hey man, don't kill me, let me go ahead and get my Tasigur trigger off, give me this card, and I'll make sure that I will protect you with War Tax. Amazing card. Amazing political pillow fort card. Next up, we got Collective Restraint, which is, in this deck, just a slightly better propaganda because attacking creatures have to pay X for each creature attacking you, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. Next up, we have No Mercy. So whenever a creature successfully deals damage to you, destroy it. And this deters a lot of people from attacking you, especially decks that rely on counters to build up. They're not going to hit you, at least they're not going to hit you till the end of the game, because they don't want to lose whatever creature that they have invested in. So that's a really good card. And then we have Dissipation Field, which does the same thing, except it pops the creature to their owner's hands. Now, you gotta be careful when playing this card. A lot of people have cards that have enter the battlefield abilities, so some people will actually hit you just to get their the ability to cast a creature again. I was nervous the other night. I was playing against someone who was playing a Maelstrom Wanderer deck, and if he were to hit me, he would get the Wanderer back, play it again, and cascade into much more powerful spells, so I had to just hold on to this one in my hand. But pretty much every other situation, it's very good, especially against tokens. Now we're on to the old remnants of Leovold Emissary of Trest with Windfall. Now, with Leovold out before, you would just get rid of everybody's hands. But now I'm trying to get the trigger off that triggers off that damage my opponents whenever they draw cards and discard cards. So Windfall is still in here, and it's a big part of the deck. You're going to tutor for this a lot. You're going to flash it back. You're going to use it. It's pretty great. And then we got Jace's Archivist, which is basically just a Windfall with legs. Unfortunately, it doesn't have haste, but we have Swiftfoot Boots in here, or not Swiftfoot Boots, but Lightning Greaves in here to make sure that you can get him to go off at really fast speed. Whispering Madness, which is the same thing, but you can put this onto one of your creatures and then have it be a threat when it swings and hits, so people have to do all of it again, discarding their hands or drawing cards as well. Amazing. Whispering Madness is an amazing card. Then we have Teferi's Puzzle Box. Now, I like Teferi's Puzzle Box if I'm going the card draw route only, where I'm just going to try and kill people by drawing, just with stuff like Psychosis Crawler. This isn't so good for the discard element, especially because I believe... Oh, no. Well, it's still good for discard, but it's just not as good. But this Teferi's Puzzle Box hits, you have your enchantments out, you have your engine going as soon as this hits. Then we have Time Reversal. Now, Time Reversal doesn't make your opponents discard their hands either, but late game, if you're accidentally going to mill yourself out, you hit a Time Reversal, and you're going to get all the cards in your graveyard back into your hand, and then you're going to draw a bunch of new cards. You can use that just to kill people on the draw, or you can use it to get that library back. It's especially good with Tasigur, because Tasigur, you're going to delve to be able to play him. So you're going to weed out all of your lands that you've lost in your graveyard. So all the cards that go back in your deck are just extra fire that you're going to draw and use later. So it's Time Reversal. Now that we're done with all the Windfall effects, this is what's going to get you there when people discard or draw cards. This is what's going to kill them. And we're starting here with Waste Not. Whenever an opponent discards a creature card, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token on the battlefield. Whenever an opponent discards a land card, you may add 2 black to your mana pool. And whenever an opponent discards a non-creature, non-land card, you draw a card. This thing is just so great, and it's real subtle and kind of... nobody really wants to target it with their removal. They were going to choose something else because it's kind of situational. So you can play this early game, and it just sits there quietly, and then later when everybody's discarding a million cards, you're going to get all these zombies, all this mana, and all these card draw, which is amazing. Liliana's Caress. Now, whenever an opponent discards a card, that player loses 2 life. This is another one of those subtle ones, especially if they're not expecting to discard their whole hand and take a lot to the face. Pretty much the same thing, though. Megrim, which is the same thing, just 1 mana higher than that. It deals 2 damage to every player that discards a card, every time they discard a card. Then we have Underworld Dreams. Now this says, whenever an opponent draws a card, Underworld Dreams deals 1 damage to him or her. This is going to trigger off of all of our draw effects, and this is what makes, or one of the cards that makes Prosperity a straight-up kill spell. Fate Unraveler, same thing. It's going to trigger off of our Prosperity. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Fate Unraveler deals 1 damage to that player. It's also a 3/4. You're probably never going to block with this or use it for combat. You're just going to try and win off of the draw. Now we have Chasm Skulker. Now, Chasm Skulker is just one of those big, threatening, intimidating cards you play. He can easily be removed for something else, especially with this style of play. But late game, if the field is destroyed, you have like a million 1/1 squids, you can just swing and kill somebody. It's pretty amazing. Now we have Nath of the Guilt Leaf. Now this is what's going to make your opponent discard and stuff. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you may have target opponent discard a card at random. which is extremely powerful card advantage versus your opponent. Whenever an opponent discards a card, you may create a 1/1 green elf creature warrior token. So if you're doing that and you're windfalling and somebody discards, or the whole group discards their hand, you're going to have a ton of 1/1 elves that you can just beat face with. Then we have Psychosis Crawler. Pretty much the same thing as Fate Unraveler or Underworld Dreams, except whenever you draw a card, you're going to deal a lot of damage. This is really good with Consecrated Sphinx, especially if you have clones of Consecrated Sphinx out and Psychosis Crawler. You're basically going to win the game if they don't answer. So that's our card draw and discard effects there. That's going to basically what we're setting up for. Now we have some protection. We have Spellskite. Pretty expensive card, but it's really good, especially because you can just pay life to activate that target spell ability. So you can switch the target of a spell to Spellskite and save something important. Maybe an enchantment you need, a Psychosis Crawler, whatever. It's going to save you. Then we have Lightning Grease, primarily in there to give haste to Jace's Archivist. So you can windfall immediately and very fast. And to protect him, because people want him to go as soon as he's there. Then we have Kira, Great Glass Spinner. Now you have to be careful with Kira when you play her, because you may end up stopping your own abilities from targeting. This is flying 2/2. Creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability for the first time in a turn, counter that spell or ability. This is just going to protect everything you've set up already. And then you play it later. You can play it early. People will probably ignore it. Play it later, and it's just going to set you up in a safe position. Now we're on to the life gain. Every deck I build has a little bit of life gain in it, so I can search, tutor for those cards, get them out, and save myself if I've been attacked or been in trouble for most of the game and have low life. This says play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play that card, the top card of your library, if it's a land card. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Pretty good. Especially with Boundless Realms, you're going to gain a lot of life later game. Sangromancer. This is a life gain thing if your opponents discard things or their creature dies. 3/3 flying for 4. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you may gain 3 life. Whenever an opponent discards a card, you may gain 3 life. So, you're just going to gain so much life. We have Venser's Journal, so we're drawing so many cards. I mean, you can drop a Venser's Journal, and then use the rest of your mana late game for prosperity, and then when when your turn rolls around, your life is going to roll up substantially, and you're going to have just all this fire to play in your hand. Usually, though, when Venser's Journal goes off, you're a target immediately, because people know you're going to get out of hand, especially for aggro decks to deal with. But having no maximum hand size is another big aspect of the card. Now we have Snapcaster Mage. I believe this is the beginning of the removal set of cards I have in a deck. Snapcaster is going to bring back Windfall. He's going to bring back Beast Within. He's going to bring back cards that are just going to allow you that replay value stuff in your graveyard, especially when you're using Tasigur to mill your deck out. You're going to be able to pick the cards that your opponents are not giving you because you're going to win with them. Cyclonic Rift. This is our field wipe answer. If you get a Cyclonic Rift fired late game and you have your setup, you basically just won. Everybody has to reset, has to play cards, and it just cannot deal with you after Rift goes off. My favorite thing to do is the Snapcaster Mage into the Rift late game. And because we Boundless Realms, it's not a lot of mana. We can actually get away with it. Reclamation Sage is another one of those end of the battlefield destroy something effects, and we're going to use Panharmonicon to abuse that ability. Beast Within is our only removal spell, and because we're focused so much on ourselves, we don't have a lot of removal in the deck, but being able to flashback cards in our graveyard or to target them and bring them back, Beast Within is here just to make sure if somebody has something that's just going to stop us from winning outright, we can Beast Within it and win. I've used Tasigur as a political card to allow my opponents to give me Beast Within so I can stop an opponent that's getting out of hand, and that's really good. So you can basically cycle it over and over again until you and that opponent are the only ones left with advantage. Crozen Grip is the best artifact or enchantment removal card ever, just because it can't be countered, and you can put it on the top of some stacked effects, and nobody can put anything else on the stack, so it's really powerful. Eternal Witness is going to get us back any card that we just previously talked about, and it's going to bring back any of our Windfall cards back to our hands so we can use them and abuse them again. With Panharmonicon, you're going to get 2 cards back. Terracodon is another card. We can blow up our own lands that we've gotten with Boundless Realms later in the game, and basically we just beat people with a bunch of elephants. And again, he's got Enter the Battlefield trigger, so Panharmonicon triggers twice. Now, these are the win conditions of the deck now. Now, we've already went through a lot of win conditions just through the life gain and pain, draw pain kind of set. But now we have Laboratory Maniac, because with Consecrated Sphinx out, all those draw effects, prosperity, everything making us draw so many cards, we can actually mill ourselves. We actually have a mill card back in the back here. You get Eternal Witness out, bring Laboratory Maniac back from your graveyard to your hand, mill yourself, you just win the game outright. And so Laboratory Maniac is a very fun way to take a game. Rite of Replication, usually I'm going to target a Psychosis Scrawler with Rite of Replication and just win the game. People draw a card and then they're going to lose, with the kicker here, it's going to make 5 copies of Psychosis Scrawler, and then they're going to lose 6 life every time they draw a single card. It's very powerful, and having all the card effects, you're usually going to draw about 3 or 4 cards at the beginning of their turn, and you're just going to outright kill people with Rite of Replication. Of course, you can always clone something that's an opponent has, it's very powerful as well. Now, if I don't want to mill myself and win with a Maniac, I use a Psychic Spiral, and I can target an opponent and then have them lose an insane amount of cards from their library and just outright lose. You can also flashback Psychic Spiral using Snapcaster, which is also a lot of fun. Keening Stone is good because we're going to use it against people that are untouchable, that are playing styles a lot like us, or we're going to use it on ourselves again to win with Laboratory Maniac. It's a very powerful card. 5-tap, target player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard, where X is the number of cards in that player's graveyard. Sometimes it may not work too well with us exiling cards with Tasigur, but it will get you there, and it's subtle enough to go off and really... and can win you games out of nowhere. Now, Villainous Wealth is a win con. If you get a high enough Villainous Wealth going off on your opponent, you can outright win the game because they'll just scoop. It says 3 Sultai colors, black, blue, green, X. Target opponent exiles the top X cards of his or her library. You may cast any number of non-land cards with converted mana cost X or less from among them without paying their mana costs. The biggest... I did this for 21 time, and... my opponent, he didn't scoop or anything, he just stuck in it, but I just basically played his deck, and it was amazing. It was very powerful, and of course I won that game. But Villainous Wealth late game, nobody sees it coming, and it's extremely powerful if you choose the right person to use it on. Now we have a lot of the fun cards of the deck. Vidalcan Ori, you may cast non-land cards as though they had flash, so you're going to use this to surprise people late game. Early game, it's not that good. Later, when you have all this mana to use and abuse, you can just flash in cards and kind of you're going to start playing on other people's turns. Very powerful card. I've been talking about Panharmonicon with everything enters the battlefield triggering twice. Panharmonicon is just an amazing card. Then we have Seedborn Muse. Now, Seedborn Muse works with Vidalcan Ori. That way, basically, with my cards, like Temple Bell, I'm basically taking a turn every time somebody else takes a turn. Choose all permanents you control during each other player's untap step. Oh, yeah, untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap step. That's what she does. 2/4. If she hits, my opponent has to kill her. Otherwise, I'm just kidding. So much action in. I'm getting all my mana back, and I'm just playing, and I'm going to try and kill everybody with that. Then we have Deadeye Navigator. Deadeye Navigator paired with something with an Enter the Battlefield ability. You flash it in, you can protect whatever it's paired with by flashing, or you can abuse that Enter the Battlefield trigger with Panharmonicon and just have so much card draw go off, so much card search go off, depending on whatever you're doing. whatever it's paired with. And it's good to be paired with pretty much anything. So, now we're on to our tutors. We have Mystical Tutor. That's going to get us most likely Windfall, so we can use the discard and draw trigger going off on it. Otherwise, it can just get us stuff that people are not, or a way to get stuff out of our graveyard that Tasigur got rid of. Very powerful. Oh. Then we have Vampiric Tutor, which does the same thing. Now we're going to use Temple Bell to abuse Vampiric Tutor, and we were going to use it to abuse Mystical Tutor. It puts it on top of our library, any card that we search for, and then we can draw it with Temple Bell. Then we have Demonic Tutor, which is, search your library for any card, put it in your hand, reshuffle your library afterwards. Draw Demonic Tutor late game. If you don't draw your win con, you wasted it. Basically that powerful. Anytime you're running black, you should just get a copy, because your deck's just not as good as it could be without it. And then we have Runescar Demon. He is basically a Demonic Tutor on a stick. You can beat people with him, but I really liked, it's expensive, but I like to pair him with Deadeye Navigator so I can flash in, or I can flash him in, have that end of the battlefield trigger happen. I'm searching my library for 2 cards every time it goes up. I can get any set of cards I need and then just play him next turn and win. And then that's pretty much game. Very powerful, and that's it, guys. That's my answer to how I dealt with the banning of Leovold Emissary of Trest. Tasigur is not as powerful, of course, but whatever decks you have right now can easily be tweaked to deal with him, because like Leovold, he is a very political general, and he's a lot of fun too. You're going to get a lot of cards off of him, and unlike Leovold, he's going to allow other people to have a lot of fun too, because they're going to interact with you, and they're going to keep drawing whatever cards they draw. And that's it, guys. This is Nick Newman with RPG Mastery. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you.